Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and it has been a while since I have sat down to film any kind of video. And if I'm being totally honest, I do not feel like filming right now. My anxiety is at like an 11 and I'm so up here right now that I just needed to do something else and shift focus, and I've been wanting to film videos for the last week and a half, so that's what we're doing. So I'm in comfy clothes, my hair is in a messy bun, and we're going to talk about the books that I read the last 3 months because it's a Friday night and that's what I feel like doing. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. So without further ado, these are the 16 books that I read in April, May, and June. Let's get into it. Oh gosh. All right, so starting off with the books that I read in April, I'm gonna be honest, actually, about 85% of this stack is graphic novels. I had a really weird past quarter of reading. Life was super crazy, super busy. I'm back working in an office again, which has taken up like all of my free time. And yeah, my mental health has been kind of all over the place. So reading for me has been very hit or miss the last 3 months. But in April, I ended up reading a pretty good amount of books. So the first one that I read is called Clumsy by Jeffrey Brown. I picked this up at a used bookstore. And this is about like little snippets of a relationship in this kind of crude, like graphic kind of style of drawing. This was really forgettable. It was kind of a weird story. It was one of those, like, it kind of reminded me of like 500 Days of Summer vibes, where like the guy's really into the girl's not as into the guy, the story of their relationship, how it ends, etc. Very forgettable. Probably gonna donate it. Moving on. The next graphic novel I read is called Deafo by C.C. Bell, and this one was actually really cute, and I did actually really enjoy this. This is about a little bunny that is deaf and how she kind of copes with wearing her hearing aid and the different kind of struggles that she goes through. The art style of this was absolutely adorable. I really thought this was super cute, just with kind of how it was portrayed, and I really enjoyed this. I think of all the graphic novels that I read the last few months, this was definitely one of my favorites. Another kind of forgettable graphic novel. This was Lauren Miracle's The Under the Moon about Catwoman. And so this was, I think, more of an origin story in kind of a very basic like ink style graphic novel type of print. I liked it. But it wasn't totally my favorite, and to be honest, it was really depressing from what I remember. So I did like it. I do kind of want to get into reading more like comic book graphic novels type of things, so I did enjoy this. But yeah, overall it kind of felt like I was like stepping into a story within like a story that was already started, if that makes any sense. Like, there was a lot of pieces from this, from what I remember, that I wish I would have had more context for, but other than that, I thought it was really good. Okay, so my first novel of the month of April was Sea Witch Rising, which is the sequel to The Sea Witch, which I read a couple years ago, I think maybe 2 years ago or last year, and really enjoyed it. And this is the sequel by Sarah Henning. This was good, but I think I liked the original better. This was just kind of a forgettable story. Like, if I think back on it now, it's really hard for me to kind of pull memories of this book out. I thought it was a good spin on The Little Mermaid. The way that it all kind of rounded together made sense, and I liked it. Again, I think I just like the original a little bit better, so I'll probably end up passing this one along. For those of you guys that don't know, I have started in my recent like major purging of my library. Every quarter I hold on to all of my books, and then I end up getting rid of everything but 3. So I do narrow it down quite a bit, just because I want my library to be the things that I'm absolutely loving, want to reread, want to come back to, has a place in my warm fuzzy feelings. So a lot of these unfortunately will probably be donated, but again, it doesn't necessarily mean they were bad reads. It's just not enough of it being in my feelings to like keep it forever. So the next graphic novel that I read this month was Fake Blood by Whitney Gardner. This was about a boy who thinks he's a vampire, or I think is trying to convince a girl that he's a vampire because she's like a vampire, like obsessed. And again, this was cute. It was a middle grade kind of vibe. Again, the art style was super adorable. I really enjoyed it. But again, not super enough. And it was, again, kind of, again, one of those, like, not forgettable, but not something that really, like, sat with me. It's just a lot of times graphic novels are when I'm in a reading slump. I need to pick myself out of it, read through something in a sitting. That tends to be what I go through for these. It really takes a lot for a graphic novel to be, like, a really amazing something that I want to go back to. So, again, I enjoyed this. Most likely will pass it on. One thing that absolutely will not be leaving my library, because this is like probably one of the top 3 favorite books I've read so far this year, if not maybe one of the top ones, and that is, of course, The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Anyone that has read this book and talked about it obviously is absolutely obsessed. This book is so adorable. It's about a caseworker named Linus, that works for the department in charge of magical youth. It's been 2 months since I read this, trying to remember the specifics, but he is basically tasked with going to visit an orphanage that has a lot of crazy things going on with it. He doesn't know a whole lot when he goes, but he goes and meets these adorable, wonderful children that are so cute and so heartwarming, and it's just so great and visually just fantastic. Like, you could just picture everything so clearly, and I just love this book. Like, the little kids are so cute and just so adorable, and it had a very Shannon Maguire-esque vibe, which I love her books, especially the Wayward Children series, and this definitely had that same feel, so 100% love this. All right, guys, so for May, I got sucked into, along with I think many people in the bookish community, into the Shadow and Bone Grishaverse epicness that was the Netflix show. I watched it, I binged it, and then I wanted to read the books. So I actually read the first book, obviously Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, in tandem with watching the first show. So I actually would read to a certain point, watch the show, or no, I would watch to a certain point, read. I kind of did it so I was knowing a little bit. I read more than I watched the show, and then watched the show kind of knowing what I was going into with it. So it was actually a really good read. Okay, my critique with this series, particularly with Shadow and Bone, is I really wish there was more context going into this. The world building with this was something I really was missing. I really actually enjoyed the show quite a bit because I feel like they rounded out a lot more that the book was missing, in the sense of, like, I really had a hard time differentiating people with their powers and what their powers actually entailed and what their powers did. And it was kind of like, oh, he's a so-and-so, and it kind of was like, oh, you're expected to know like what that means, but not really. So a lot of this I felt like I was like kind of playing catch up with the whole time, which was kind of frustrating. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I really liked the show. I cannot wait for the next season to come out. So yeah, overall I did enjoy this, but it wasn't everything that I was hoping for it to be. Also, after watching the show and reading, spoiler, the rest of the series, I very much love Mal. I'm a Melina fan, 100%. And the Dark Lane is trash, and you can't convince me otherwise, and Nikolai is great. So, the next book that I read, again, in kind of a quick pick-me-up, was The Boy and the Mouse, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackey. This is a very cute, very almost like Winnie the Pooh-esque illustrated book about just the cutest band of friends, and just has a lot of uplifting messages within it, like asking for help isn't giving up, said the horse, it's refusing to give up. Like things like that are just, again, very Winnie the Pooh-esque sounding in my brain, and it just gave me the warm and fuzzies. I thought it was really cute. I love the art style, and yeah, I think this is adorable. Another graphic novel. Are we surprised? So this is Snapdragon, again a graphic novel by Kate Leah. And yeah, this is about a girl who thinks that her neighbor is a witch, and she's kind of the weird girl. She's got some things where like people don't really understand her and she's bullied. And this, I will say, was great with representation. It had a really great rep in a lot of different ways for this book, which was awesome. It was a little bit kind of, okay, so I really liked it and it was different. It was memorable. However, I feel like certain graphic novels just go to kind of a weird witchy place, which isn't always my personal favorite. So overall, the message and parts of this, particularly with like animal things, if you've read this, you kind of know what I'm talking about with like the bones, was a little creepy for me. So it wasn't totally my favorite. Again, I loved the art style. I thought the story overall was really cute. I loved her friendship with her friend. I forget what their name is. But yeah, overall, super cute. Really liked it. Another graphic novel. Are we surprised? So this is The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag. So this is about a girl who falls in love with a Keltie. Keltie? Yeah, I think she's the one where the seals can turn into humans, not a mermaid, but she's a Keltie, and kind of just her going through and kind of living this, not lie, but just like being this other kind of person before she can really move away and be herself. Again, I love this art style, these kinds of like cartoony, poppy types of cartoon. I just think they're so great. I loved the dynamic between all of the characters. And yeah, again, I'll keep saying it, graphic novels I really enjoy. There are very few I will go back to and reread because I just bring in so many. So I really did enjoy this. Again, loved the representation within this, thought their relationship was super cute and adorable, and their like message overall of like conservation and things like that were also included with this, I really loved. So yeah, enjoyed this overall. Okay, and the last book I read in May was, of course, Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This, again, for me, kind of fell into the trope of second book. There was a lot of things within this that I felt were leading up to the third book. We also got the introduction of a Nikolai in here, which I really enjoyed. I liked his character a lot. However, I felt like this book was so slow. This book took me forever to get through. Like the first 2/3 of this book I felt like just dragged, and then the last like 50 pages was like all of this action like this whole book had been leading up to. So again, I liked this series. I did not love this series. So with that being said, this one was probably my least favorite out of the three, just because of the fact that it really dragged in the beginning first half, and I think this took me almost a month to pretty much get through this whole book, and I got through Ruin and Rising in like 4 days. So there you go. All right, friends, so moving into June, the first book that I read was, of course, rounding out the trilogy for Shadow and Bone, and that was Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. Again, like I just mentioned, I read this book in like 4 days. I flew through it. I really got invested in this one, and I just really liked the way that this rounded out. I liked the dynamic between Mal and Melina. Okay, I need to like sit down, and maybe the show will do a better job of explaining it when we get to this point, and I'm trying not to spoil things. However, the whole dynamic with Mal in this book was very confusing to me. They did not explain that in a way that I fully grasped. And I'll be honest, with certain things, particularly fantasy and sometimes just books in general, I feel like I need things explained to me in a really dumbed down kind of way. So maybe I read through this too quickly, maybe I missed something in the earlier books, but I really just felt like the whole dynamic with Mal at the very middle end of this book kind of came out of left field, and I get that that was kind of the point, but it was just very bizarre. So yeah, not a huge fan of the way they did that dynamic. I liked the ending. I like how everything rounded out. I liked the dynamic that Mal and Alina now get to live this like totally normal life, and none of them die. Spoiler, like they got to like be happy and be together and like kind of come full circle with where they were at. So I really enjoyed that. I liked a little bit of the redemptive arc with Nikolai. I still want to read his dynamic of his duology or trilogy of what's been going on with him, because I really liked his character and kind of everything that happened with him. Like, the scenes with him were so visual to me. Like, I could picture him with the demon and everything, and it was just really creepy the way she wrote that. So, like, that was probably one of my favorite visual scenes. But yeah, overall, again, I'll keep saying it, I liked this series. I think I'm more invested in now at this point in the show than in the books. I'm glad I read the books so I can appreciate them and kind of know when the series does continue, like, oh, that's a different dynamic. And again, I think the addition of bringing in the Six of Crows characters, now having read part of that and this series, I really think that added to the richness of this, because I think without that, the storyline seemed very straightforward. Yeah, other than that, that was great. Oh, also, Genya's character, the end of Siege and Storm, oh my god, like, that was a whole thing. So yeah, overall, just had to say that. That was one of the scenes where I literally, I think audibly was like, oh my god. So yeah, overall, really liked the series. Not one of my favorites, but I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I read it. And I am reading Six of Crows currently, and I think enjoying it more than the Grishaverse, which I know is part of the Grishaverse, but the Shadow and Bone series. So probably next quarter, I will let you guys know how I feel about all that. Okay, next I read a new release for 2021, Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I've read all of the recent releases from Taylor Jenkins Reid and really enjoyed them. However, this one was not my favorite. And I actually ended up reading a review by Sam from, I'll link her channel right here, but she's a booktuber on here on YouTube, and she had written a review on Goodreads basically saying that this book felt like two different books than what was originally pitched in the story. So essentially this book is about a family that throws this annual party every year in Malibu. It's a super huge thing, like tons of people famous and otherwise come to it, and it's great, whatever. And that was like the last like third of the book. The first half of the book was pretty much this family, their dynamic, like this backstory of how they all kind of got to this place that they were at, great. And then by the time it got to the actual party, the way that it kind of went was all of these people were at this party, and there were specific names and dynamics and interactions and all of this stuff with people that like had a page and a half of like interaction, and then like you didn't really care anymore because like there was literally a page given to them and then it was done. And it was kind of like, well, why bother? Why am I caring? Why give all these people dynamics and connections and this and that, whatever? But like the first 2/3 of the book has nothing to do with any of them. It was really weird. I didn't like it. That was the only dynamic part that I had with it. I think I ended up probably giving this 2 or 3 stars. It was good. Again, I really will love and read anything Taylor Jenkins Reid puts out, but this one for me, I think because especially of how this book was pitched, I would have liked it to be, again, like Sam said, more centered on the party itself and much less on the backstory of how they all got to this. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, I didn't really care, and it kind of got repetitive, and, like, I don't know. Like, I read through it in, like, 2 days, but still not my favorite. And next, another graphic novel. Are we surprised? So this is the T Dragon Tapestry by Kay O'Neill. These books I just enjoy and love so much for the visual aspect because they're just so beautiful, and the T Dragons are just so cute, and it's so pretty and beautiful, and I just am obsessed. So this is a third and final story in the T Dragon series following Greta, who is a blacksmith, Minette, who is a what is it called? She's like an apprentice to the couple in the story that are T Dragon trainee like people, like they train and like work with T Dragons. I feel like I probably would have very much so benefited from reading the first book in this series before rereading this one, because I jumped into it, and yet again, as I tend to feel, kind of felt lost the entire time I was reading this because it circled back to the characters in the first story, which I really enjoyed. However, again, they were referring to a lot of things from the first and second books in the series that I just had been so long since I'd read them that I just felt like I was missing a lot of the impact of this story. Again, I love this so much more for the illustration aspect than the story necessarily. I just think the T Dragons are so adorable and cute, and like I said, the art style of this is just my absolute favorite. Like, let me find you a little T Dragon. hold on. It's just too cute. And it makes me so happy. Let me see. Like, look at their little face. How cute is that? I just think it's adorable. I'm obsessed. And yeah, like I said, this one I probably will end up donating just because I think I like the first one in its totality a little bit more. Okay, we're almost done. 2 more graphic novels that I read for the month. I can't actually, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I can't remember if I read this in April, May, and June, or if I read it previously. If I did, I apologize if I showed it in last month's video or last quarter's video, but this is Delicates, the sequel to Sheets by Brenna Thumner. This is, again, a graphic novel about a girl who works at a laundromat, and this is the sequel following her kind of being able to be out of her shell and grow and expand from the events of what happened in the first book. She's got more friends, she's in a much better place, all of this different stuff. And then there's also this girl who's the teacher's daughter who, okay, I'm gonna make a very general guess here. I do apologize. I think, okay, her name's Eliza, and she basically ends up kind of in a very difficult situation where it kind of felt a little bit, it kind of reminded me of like 13 Reasons Why, like the girl that's the outcast, like the photographer, I think his name's Tyler in the show, like it kind of that same vibe of just being very much an outcast, like seeing things that other people aren't seeing, like kind of not creepy feeling, but just, I don't know, there was an interesting vibe with Eliza's character in this, and overall I enjoyed it. Wasn't totally my favorite. Again, I think I liked Sheets a lot better as far as a graphic novel goes, so probably will end up donating this, but overall as a series I think this is a really cute one. Okay, and the last graphic novel that I read in the month of June for the quarter was The Giver by Lewis Lowry. Now, if you guys don't know, The Giver is one of my absolute favorite books of all time ever. And so when I saw that there was a graphic novel version of it that had come out recently, I obviously had to have it. And again, the art style of this is beautiful and wonderful and fantastic. So this very, very, very closely, pretty much identically follows the story of The Giver. If you guys have read that back in middle school or whenever, we had to read that as kids. But yeah, overall, this was a really great representation of it. I liked the way they visually showed a lot of things that when you read the book are kind of hard to interpret. As always, they left the ending very open and very vague, but it kind of moves, as you guys saw, from that black and white to that full color as Jonas kind of gains his memories and things like that from The Giver, which I thought was a cool concept. And yeah, overall, I really loved this. It's so cute. I love like The Giver, like I said, and yeah, definitely one of my favorites that I read the last 3 months. Alright friends, so that is everything that I read the last quarter, 3 months of April, May, and June for 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed. I just like sitting down talking with you guys about things that make me happy, like books and videos and all of those fun things. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let me know down below what your favorite book was from the last few months. I would love to know. And as always, if you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more of my face, and I will see you guys in the next one. Be kind to each other. Bye.